Today we have Damon from St. Gabriel Secondary School. He's a lead teacher. Today we are here for a conversation because both of us believe very strongly in activating the students' prior knowledge. So Damon, would you like to share with us why do you think activating prior knowledge is so important?
For me, I feel that activating prior knowledge is important because it provides more meaning in the things that the students do during their learning. When we link something which we are currently learning to what we have in our minds before, right? I think it basically provides the basis for our learners or our students to build on what they currently have within them so that they assimilate and accommodate the new knowledge that they are supposed to learn, which therefore is more motivational for them.
Totally agree with what you say. Yesterday I was sharing with my colleague, in some subjects we had, like for example math, English, Chinese, right? Let's say the student do not understand the topic because there's a final year exam. So nearer to the exam, the students will work very hard to memorize, to practice past year papers, to try to understand. So they will make meaning during the study process, even though when during the lesson time they may not be able to understand. In PE there is no examination. So it's even more important, for example PE teachers like us, right? We need to help students to really make meaning of what they are learning. So if they cannot make meaning, right, the knowledge will just store in the working memory and then after that you'll be gone. I like this learning theory called constructivist learning theory. Students only learn when they construct knowledge. And one thing we need to understand as a teacher is for students to put the knowledge into the long-term memory, right? The learning should be effortful, means learning should be active. They need to construct, they need to make sense, they need to make connection. It's like Lego. When we construct a Lego, for Lego to start, right, we need to put the Lego brick onto something, right? Like those board or something. Without that base or without that lower level, right, we can't build things. So what constructivist learning theory is trying to say is there need to be something below, then can build something on top. If the student have no prior knowledge or no lower level of the Lego brick to begin with, it's very difficult to make sense.
I like the analogy that you have mentioned about using the Lego bricks to associate it with learning. And you mentioned also about working memory and long-term memory. The working memory is the area within our brain that we actually start to construct the knowledge itself. That is where the information that we take in from the things we're supposed to learn is met with the prior knowledge that comes from our long-term memory. Without the prior knowledge, the learner, right, cannot link back to something that is personal to them, which they have to develop or to learn something. If we want to take PE, for example, if we want to get our students to learn dribbling, before even learning dribbling itself, maybe we should ask them a question to check in with them. What do they think it would be like if they dribble the ball by bouncing the ball on the ground? Get them to think about it, work through that thinking, or maybe even talk to a friend about it before getting them to try out the activity. This little exercise pulls out their memory on what they may have experienced themselves or what they may have seen from YouTube or television on how dribbling is like. Once they have this visual idea already, right, we get them to go and try it out, and that's where the dribbling activity makes more sense and more meaning. That is also where they will start making minor adjustments to refine or to improve or to learn the skill of dribbling that they are supposed to learn for that lesson itself. Because it makes the learner more motivated, it creates meaning for the learner, and it's deep meaning. It's not because the teacher told them to do it, it's because they linked it back to something that is really, really meaningful for them. And that is where learning sticks.
Sometimes we say students are more hands-on kind of students or more kinesthetic kind of learning style. Actually, it's not the learning style. But because when we practice, when we do it right, we have this experience, and this experience become our prior knowledge. Then when we have this experience really, then we look at the concept again, then So sometimes we like certain sports because we play a lot or we practice a lot. And not because we are really interested in the sport, but because we play so much that we have a lot of experience and we can understand. And every concept that comes to us, we actually understand why this, why that, why must run here, why must run. And we enjoy because we have a deeper understanding. So actually, when the student really go through that meta-cognition cycle, right? Think about past experience, then try to link new concept. Actually, that's also part of developing a joy of learning lah. When I was beginning teacher, my mentors will always tell me, when we talk to students, try to make it relatable. So that time I really don't understand what relatable means. Then later on, as I practice talking, right, I start to understand relatable means when I speak to the students, right, it must somehow at least they have a prior knowledge before. I remember seeing this science teacher teaching SI unit in science. He could get the attention of everyone. So the science teacher just told the class one concept. Say SI unit means the standard unit that everybody use in science. That's it. He did not even elaborate further. So he just told the students, okay, I want you all to find the SI unit of time, distance, velocity. So the student go and find themselves, or they go and discuss with their partner. What do they think? Of course, some of the students say wrongly. Some of the students say distance is kilometer. Some students say time is hour. But to the teacher, right, he thought the thinking process is good because they are actually activating their prior knowledge. It's okay to be wrong. Then when they open the book and they realize that distance is actually meter and time is actually second, right? Then the teacher asks, why do you think is kilometer, and why do you think is hour? Then maybe the student will say, because I always see my father drive car, they always kilometer per hour. Then the teacher start asking, why do you think speed is in kilometer per hour? Then the student will start to guess the answer. The student will say, maybe because when we talk about distance, usually it's in kilometers. Meter will be like, thousands of meters is too much. As the conversation continue, right, the students actually understand why on the map is in kilometer and time is in hours and speed is in kilometer per hour. And then they also remember very clearly that SI unit for speed is meter per second. So in the exam, everybody got it correct. Students don't even need to memorize anything because they really understand. Maybe the whole discussion process take very long, but the teacher was constantly helping them to bring their prior knowledge. Then he add on some more. So the student actually constructed. It's a very simple question and answer session, but the students were really very engaged.
I think what you have shared, right, was a very good example of the science teacher, right, helping the students to learn the concepts that they're supposed to learn and put it into long-term memory. I think the result is, as you shared, that when the students do their assessment, right, they can just come up with the answers immediately, because when the knowledge is stored in long-term memory, it is easier for it to be retrieved out. And that is where activating prior knowledge at the start of learning is always so important. I think we talked quite a bit on why is it so important. Maybe our listeners want to know a little bit on the how. And I think what we have spoken so far, right, we can see that one of the simplest ways is to ask questions to students and then encourage them to ask the questions during the lesson itself. And this is especially important at maybe the beginning of a particular module or chapter, because I think when we start with a new chapter or a new module, right, a lot of times it's something new, so we have to probably do a little bit more to get the learners to link back to their prior knowledge. Of course, if it's during the middle of the course already, right, let's say for example they have already learned stationary dribble, then the next lesson is supposed to be dribbling forward, then activating prior knowledge part is probably just quick demonstration on what they have done for stationary dribble, and then get the students to do the forward dribbles. But if it's the start of the module on dribbling, then we have to probably show them a demonstration or a video on a beginner doing the dribbling versus intermediate versus a advanced dribbling. Then we can say, okay students, can you identify what are the differences between these three types of basketball dribblers? Then give them some time, maybe 3 to 5 minutes. They can identify it themselves, or they can talk to a friend to identify what are the differences. This can also be activating prior knowledge for the students before getting them to try out the dribbling drill, which I think makes it more meaningful for them. Then they know what is good and what is not so good. Therefore, they will probably feel that I want to strive to improve. So that's another way to activate prior knowledge, to ask them to compare the differences between something that's well done versus something that's not so well done before they go and try out the activity.
So last time I also tried a few things, like for example, give demonstration, and ask them to discuss. And then a lot of time I notice is students give me a lot of wrong answers. Then I'll become very worried about all these wrong answers. Then I will try to correct them. Then sometimes you too much correction, right? The next time we ask question, the student don't want to answer anymore. Because what's the point of answering? You're going to correct me. Later on, you're going to embarrass me, say my answer is wrong, so I'm not going to answer anymore. After a few years, I start to think that, why are we asking them questions? The purpose is we want them to say something, what they know first. Even if it's wrong, say something first. Bring out the Lego brick first to put there first. Then as they continue and think about it, then they start to develop their understanding. So the thing is, I realized that every time ask question, right, have to keep on reminding them that it is really okay to be wrong. The purpose is not for you to give me the correct answer. The purpose for you is to tell me what you know and to start to develop that thinking. As you develop the thinking, you will understand deeper and you will enjoy the learning. I think that is very important for us to tell the student all the time. I always have this help one another routine. So sometimes they will help and then they will say the wrong things without. At the start, I try to correct the way they teach. But later on, I realized it is really okay for them to teach wrongly. As long as they say something, then when they see their friends not improving, right, then they will start to think, why is my friend not improving? Then they will correct the things they say to their friend. And that's how they develop their joy of learning. And then sometimes when we ask a question and then the students still don't answer, no matter how much you encourage, they still don't answer, then that means they really don't have the prior knowledge. Then it's okay. Then sometimes I will say, no worry, hold on this question, then you go and practice again. Later I'll ask similar question. Then when they go and practice already, they have some experience already. Then after that, later on, I will make sure the question is simpler, not so difficult. Maybe just now I will ask, where is a good space to run to? Then no answer, right? Then after the practice, right, I'm not going to ask that same question because I know that it's too difficult for them. So maybe I'll make it simpler. Where do you go and how do you support the boss? Hopefully they have some answer. So when there's no answer, it also means that either the question is too difficult or they really don't have that prior knowledge. It's a form of assessment.
Yeah, it is. I totally agree with you that even if the student says something that is wrong, or if the display of the skill that you want them to learn is also not correct, it is okay because that really was their prior knowledge and this gives us something we can work on. When we are able to direct them to what is something that they should work towards to, I'm using basketball again. So let's say if they dribble but they didn't bend their knees, but then I show them that, hey, you look at the other guy and then he's dribbling properly with the knees bent. Maybe we can ask the student, what do you think is the difference? It triggers them to actually come up with something, right? Because they can see the comparison already, and if they verbalize the right thing, we encourage them to carry on. And once they make the adjustments and you see them being more successful than before, this is, I think, where the students enjoy the learning. Okay, finally, I feel that activating prior knowledge is really important for our learners because it helps our learners to link what they are supposed to learn for the lesson today to what they have already experienced or known within themselves. And this is where it makes the learning more meaningful for the learner and therefore more motivational for them. And when they are motivated to learn, our students will be more able to enjoy their learning during the lesson. And we as teachers will feel happy for them and we enjoy our teaching also. Second, what we want to achieve as educators is that we want the learning to stick within our students. So when they construct new knowledge from the prior knowledge to the new information that they are actually taking in during the lesson, that is where learning sticks for our students and gets stored in the long-term memory. What we do not want as educators is that they just exhibit the skill or the information on a piece of paper or in front of you during the lesson, and then after that they forget about it and they don't want to know more about the subject later on in their lives.
I think forgetting the knowledge is the fear that all students have, and even teachers also. We worry that students forget what we teach them. And the student also worried that whatever they learn, they forget. Students, especially students with special needs, their working memory is so small. They tend to forget things very fast. And when the information keep coming and they cannot connect to their prior knowledge, right, the information just keep forgetting. And sometimes it can be very, very frustrating. When students feel this threat that whatever I learn, I can't seem to understand, and later on ask me to practice, I will embarrass in front of my friends, my teacher will scold me, then the student will have this anxiety. So when students' prefrontal cortex is still developing, right, this anxiety can really cause a lot of problem. For example, the fight or flight response.
Yeah.
Fight means they may I don't want to learn anymore. I hate this subject. I don't like basketball. I don't like badminton. That kind of thing.
Show anger.
Yeah, so we may think that they are anger management issue, but it's because the student cannot learn. And then the flight response could be just ignore or pretend sick or don't want to attend PE lesson. So all these things comes from because students have this anxiety when they enter the class. So I think it's very important that every time we teach something, the student can connect, the student can understand, the student, I get it. The aha moment is always there. Yeah, I think the students will not want to fight. The student will not be angry. The student will not want to escape the lesson.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for the conversation.